Hello and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. Today we're going to talk about something kind of interesting, and that's speculation on when US and China will actually adopt Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies besides their CBDC, obviously, because China's already working on their CBDC, as legal tender. We know it started with El Salvador, and now they're doing volcano mining, which I find kind of hilarious but cool at the same time. And then it went to Venezuela. Venezuela, we all know, has a lot of drug cartels and stuff, so basically developing world countries. And then Tonga wants to follow them, but Tonga is not a major economy either. And then you have like Ukraine looking at it, but now Brazil is really going to vote on it. And eventually, I think it will pass Brazil. If it doesn't pass this time, they'll probably try it again later, and it probably will eventually pass. So you can see the slow climb from smaller economies like El Salvador, Venezuela, Tonga, into mid-major economies like Brazil. And if Brazil chooses to adopt, I think like the IMF is shaking in its boots and some of the bankers are too, because Brazil is the largest economy in Latin America by about 30% over Mexico. I think if Brazil adopts, you can see Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, Uruguay, even Mexico, which is on the US southern border, adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. If Mexico adopts, Canada might think about it too. Our Canadian neighbors to the north, we know they already have an ETF and they're much more bullish on cryptocurrencies and a little bit more lax on regulations than the United States is. We also know Europe, with Ukraine already kind of looking at it, although I don't really know how much Russian influence we'll have on adopting or not adopting in Ukraine. And you can also see like San Marino working with VeChain. So Europe is going to be a lot more friendly towards crypto adoption. I think as many South American, Latin American countries, maybe even some Southeast Asian countries, and some African countries like Tonga start to adopt crypto, I think the rest of the continent will actually fill in. Now, obviously, like in Far East Asia, you have Korea and Japan, which are much more friendly towards cryptocurrencies. And then you have China, which is like a big no-no towards cryptocurrencies. But I do think like the area around Southeast Asia will be the first to adopt crypto as legal tender. And then it probably will spread to places like Korea and Japan. Will they adopt Bitcoin? Will they adopt Ethereum? We don't really know. Right now, it looks to be Bitcoin, and it looks like it's permeating through the small countries fairly quick. Remember, El Salvador only did it 2 or 3 months ago, and now you're having 2 or 3 countries plus a mid-major in Brazil. So that's like in the first half year. I think within the next year, 2 years, you'll see much of Latin America discuss this as it permeates through, because I think a lot of those countries do want to get out under the thumb of the United States and the complete homogeny of the dollar. And then you'll probably see some Middle Eastern countries adopt because, they hate America and, they probably want an alternative to the petrodollar, and they want an alternative to basically U.S. financing with U.S. dollars internationally. So they might actually look to adopt Bitcoin. Obviously, countries like Tonga, other countries in Africa, maybe Latin America that maybe find it hard to have access always to the US dollar, they might want an alternative too. And Bitcoin might be better than their local country's currency. Now, of all the countries in the world, there are many, many countries where Bitcoin is actually, well, not really more stable, is a better investment than their currency, according probably to a lot of those rulers. And they know that in the back of their head. So they want an alternative to major currencies like the US dollar. So Bitcoin is something that's more readily accessible in the markets. And so they'll actually adopt Bitcoin. And that would scare the United States, but I think it's inevitable. And if, the rest of the Western Hemisphere, I think it'll take maybe 2, 3, 4 years for Mexico and maybe even Canada to adopt. If the rest of the Western Hemisphere adopts, and I think in Europe, you'll see more and more countries adopt too. So I think within 5 years, you will actually see the United States being more and more pressure to adopt cryptocurrency as legal tender. And there's going to be internal pressure in the United States itself. I know Miami's making their own Miami coin, but that's a very, very small thing. Remember, the US isn't a centralized government. The US government is actually fairly decentralized. We are a federation of states. We have 50 points of power, well, 51 if you include the federal government. I'm not counting Puerto Rico or the territories. I'm just counting the states. So 51, the federal government and the 50 states. And unlike China, the U.S. isn't like, the president doesn't have direct authority over the governors. They often don't do what the president does, regardless of who is in office. In China, it's very different. Like everything goes by party rank. Like Xi Jinping is like God Emperor rank. He's like rank 0 or rank 1. Let's just say he's rank 1, just for easier reference. Like the political bureau right under him maybe is like rank 2. And then like if you're a state governor, provincial governor, or maybe like the head of Beijing, you're like rank 3 or something like that. So if you're a rank 3, then rank 2 and rank 1 are your direct superiors. So in China, Xi Jinping is the direct superior to everyone below him. Also, the United States Army, and this is important, does not belong to the Democratic or Republican Party. It is the Army of the United States. The president might be the commander in chief, but it's really like the generals who order things around. And it doesn't belong to any political party. In China, it's very different. It's called the People's Liberation Army, but it's really the Communist Party's Liberation Army because it belongs directly to the Communist Party. So that's kind of how the structure works in both countries. Since America is more of a decentralized country, I think they will have internal pressures from places like Wyoming, even Texas, to maybe adopt a crypto as legal tender. And I think in about 4 or 5 years, you're going to kind of see that come true. So I would say in about 5 years, you're going to see Bitcoin, if not another cryptocurrency, become legal tender in the United States. It will probably be Bitcoin or one of the major mainnets, is my guess. Like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Polkadot, those things probably have the most potential depending on like how much utility they have. Right now, I'm still holding my bets on Bitcoin because a lot of the hedge funds and a lot of the funds actually have it. So they would actually like that. And China, I think, will take a lot longer. But if the rest of Southeast Asia, Korea and Japan, which I think will adopt much sooner, and then like the rest of the world adopts Bitcoin, I don't think China will actually have much of a choice because if they want to be included in the world economy in the next stage, they're going to have to adopt it eventually. And they're really not going to have too much of a choice. Xi Jinping won't like it, but his main thing is he wants to hold on to power. And if China starts slipping behind because they don't adopt cryptocurrency and they find it hard to do trade with the rest of the world, and they really find it hard to really keep up with the rest of the world economically because the rest of the world has adopted a cryptocurrency as legal tender, becomes more of the international currency. I think China will kind of be forced to adopt, or there are divisions within the Communist Party. There's many people that don't agree with Xi Jinping. They just are too afraid to actually speak out because you get shot if you speak out. So, but if there's enough like opposition, that thing can't the party, like the power structure can fall. If you think about Romania, how did it actually fall? The Communist Party actually, like the authoritarian dictatorship actually fall. It fell pretty much overnight. If there's actually enough I guess resistance within the party itself, and especially within the military ranks, you can actually fall out of power. So if the economy starts tanking in China because they're not like in line with everything else, and there's like a huge amount of opposition within the party, within the political bureau, maybe even within the army itself, that can actually lead to a revolution. So I think Xi Jinping will actually see that. I think he's smart enough to actually see that. And if that's the case, he will actually adopt Bitcoin as well. Now, I think China is going to take a lot longer, maybe 7 or 8 years. So I think within the next 10 years, even America and China will actually look at cryptocurrencies and they'll actually have to consider, if not straight up, adopt them as legal tender. And it might be more than one cryptocurrency. So right now, there's a very good reason to get in on some of the bigger cryptocurrencies because you're going to see a wave of adoption coming in terms of legal tender, and they're going to have a lot of use case. So that's why kind of like cryptocurrencies are the future. I think the US will probably be like the second to last to adopt, and China will be the last to adopt because of their power structure. So the two superpowers will probably be the last 2 countries to actually adopt. Kim Jong-il and North Korea don't count. They already pretty much hacked Bitcoin anyways for their own personal needs. So that is the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.